Joined on the podcast now by Maya Logsdon. She is a senior board representative for Hancock Youth Leadership this year. And Maya, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on was to promote that the deadline for kids to apply for the upcoming Hancock Youth Leadership class is coming up. We'll get into that a second. We waited to the last moment to do that, as that deadline is coming up very soon after the recording of this podcast. But also, I just want to talk a little bit about the program so people are familiar with it, even if they don't have kids that might be eligible for next year's class, that they know what we're doing. And maybe it's something that if they have kids coming up later that they're aware of, but also maybe something that if they have a business, they want to contribute to it. That all sounds good, I think, Maya. But let's first start with how you got involved with the program. What made you want to be a part of Hancock Youth Leadership when you were just a sophomore getting ready to apply?
For me, like when I joined HYL, I didn't really know much about it because it wasn't really advertised well to us. And this year we were really trying to recruit more for that and get more kids involved in it. But I always knew that I kind of had those leadership qualities, and I really wanted to see more about what I was capable of. But I actually never really knew the ins and outs of HYL. I thought I was just learning leadership skills, but I actually learned so much more about the community, and I'm so grateful for that experience now.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Obviously, it's called Hancock Youth Leadership, but a big component of it is learning about the community and different aspects. Like you said, when you were a part of the program just as a student in it, and we'll talk about what a senior board rep is here in just a second, but when you just took part in the program last year, let's talk about your expectations when you got started. And then when we started to roll in those learning more about the community, how that kind of helped guide you and maybe learning more about what you wanted to do.
For me, when I first joined, I saw that every session day was a different topic, and I was like, that is so stupid. I already know I want to go into healthcare. Why would I go to all these things? But in reality, I'm so grateful because now I just have a newfound appreciation for everything everyone does in the community. I didn't really know about the ins and outs of the engineer's office and the water treatment plant, and I'm so grateful. Every single day I drink water, take a shower, I always think of what people put in that effort for us. And I never really expected that from HYL. I thought every single session day was just going to be sitting down, what Zach Thomas provides us with the lead curriculum. That's what I expected every day to be. But I'm so grateful for all the other aspects of it. But it's so interesting how in every single session day we also get the contribution of the leadership skills as well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you drink water every day because that, hydration's important. So that's a big positive. What was maybe the light bulb moment for you when, like you said, at first you're like, I already know what field I want to go into, and you're very involved in that field already as a high school senior. But what was maybe the moment in some of those first sessions where you thought, oh, wait, that's kind of cool. I didn't know that. And then it opened the door for more opportunities to learn about the community.
Probably the biggest one, because especially going in, I was so excited for Health and Human Services Day, and that was our third session day. And I was so excited because we had someone come in and speak about the power of reframing, and that that has stuck with me through all of my aspects of my life. Is that was my first light bulb moment of wow, I'm really learning things to take away from that will benefit my whole entire life. And I really think about that every single time I'm at a stoplight, how she talks about in our session day or anything like that. I always think about it. And then also Seth, who worked at Chick-fil-A, it was later in the session year, but during the belonging day, he talked about how belonging is important for leadership. And I've also really stuck with that because I've always thought of myself as someone who likes to make sure people feel like they belong and feel connected. But you don't really know if you actually are making people feel that way. And it also gave me a kind of inside appreciation of that's so important in leadership.
Yeah, Seth Butler, for people who don't know, you would be well worth having come talk to your organization on a variety of topics. Always happy when we can get him involved in Hancock Youth Leadership. So you go through last year as a junior in the program, or just in the general thing, but then there is the opportunity to become a senior board representative, which for people who aren't familiar with the program, we bring back 4 of the members of that year's class to then help do planning and help shape the program going forward. What made you want to take that on? Because you're busy. You're pretty busy, Maya.
Yeah, I always, and even when I had my interview for my senior board rep thing last year, they're like, how are you going to fit that into your schedule? And I said, HYL is just so important to me because I know for me, like it was so interesting being able to learn leadership experience. It doesn't mean like we really got to put it out there as much as high school juniors. But I feel like as a senior, I was like, I want to put this leadership qualities out. I really want to have an influence on these juniors and have them have as successful as lives as they could have. And so that's kind of why I wanted to be an HYL board rep. And I also thought it was so interesting, like being able to be a part behind the scenes of HYL because I have a newfound respect for everyone on the HYL board because you don't really know, like junior year, you just see them there, you just see them at the things on junior year. But senior year, it's like you get to see what everyone does. And I'm so grateful for that experience.
I think one of the things I've been really impressed with you and your fellow senior board reps is really digging into how we go about recruiting the following year's class. And one of the things that you guys have really taken on is going out to each school to talk to this year's sophomore class about what it means to be an HYL, reasons that they would want to be an HYL. It's one thing for me to go in front of a group of kids and talk about why you should be in Hancock Youth Leadership. I think it's entirely more effective to hear from someone who's actually been through the program. But what were your nerves like doing that? What did you learn from going out to do that recruitment?
I think for me, like I've always loved to public speak, so that never was an issue for me in the first part. But it's always more nerve-wracking public speaking in front of your peers than it is in front of adults for me, because high schoolers are judgy sometimes, but that's just how they are.
It's a tough audience.
It really is. It is a tough audience, and I am so grateful for the response that I got. Like I personally, me and Stephen Adams got the opportunity to speak in front of all of the Findlay High School sophomores, and that was over 200 kids, and it was so interesting because I am a student at Findlay High School and I just walk around the halls with 2,000 kids, but it was so interesting. Like people came up to me in the hallway, I have no clue who they are, but they come up to me and they're like, hey Maya, can you help me with my HYL application and all these things? So then the first time we were at Arcadia, I was kind of nervous because I didn't really know how they'd respond. But especially as I got through to like over 300 kids presenting to, I was so grateful for how everyone responded.
Well, and you should be commended for really spearheading the effort to get in front of the Findlay High School kids. Because Findlay is so much larger, it's a little bit more of a difficult area to recruit because we can't do it the same way as we do all of the county schools. So the way that you and the senior board reps have approached that has been really awesome. Do you think that's something you would have been comfortable doing a year ago at this time?
Oh, no, definitely not. I remember every single time, like I presented to the kids, we talked about like what our goals are for HYL students. And one of them is building confidence. And the one I always harped on when I was presenting is my confidence has been built so much through my experience in HYL. And it's not like we do like heaps of public speaking, but you do learn how to communicate better. And so then by learning to communicate even one-on-one better, you're better at public speaking. And even last year while I was a junior in HYL, like I spoke at a HOSA conference and I spoke in front of 3,000 people. And it was just such a great experience because I would never be able to do that.
Well, you really are not afraid to speak in front of
public. No, I love it. I love
it. To take that on, that's pretty good. Yeah. So obviously, Chamber Amplified podcast, probably not in the podcasts listening of a lot of high school sophomores right now. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of business-minded sophomores out there, and that's a demographic that we just don't know that we have. But if you were going to talk to someone's parent about Hancock Youth Leadership and about why it's a good program to get into, what would the things that you would want to highlight be?
I think one of the main things I want to highlight is I feel like as generations are going on, and Sarah Foltz even talked to me about this one time. She's like, Maya, why are you so social? And all the other kids like that are your age aren't. And I said, well, I think it's just communication skills is a big lacked thing as generation goes on. And I think HYL really helps kids build those communication skills because social anxiety and all those aspects are a huge issue. And so I think it's so important to build those skills.
Absolutely, and a lot of opportunities to do that within Hancock Youth Leadership. Now, if you're listening to this the week that we record it, the deadline to apply is coming up February 27th of 2026. So, if you know of anyone who's interested, who's a current sophomore in a Hancock County high school or Findlay City schools, be sure to pass this along to them. Let's just talk about filling out that application, Maya. It takes a little bit of effort, so you don't want to maybe put it together the very last day of the process.
Yeah, so I know some kids, I know many kids are guilty of doing it the day before, but we do need it is like it's recommended to have a letter of recommendation, and then you also need to fill out some like essay questions, but the essay is not a full 5 paragraph essay. It's not hard at all. It's all just like kind of sentence responses. Because I remember when I applied for HYL, I always like to write like paragraphs about my life, and there was a character like limit, and I was like, I cannot speak about my life in 200 characters. That's crazy. But it's really important because you kind of get to put all of your most key quality facts in that one application.
That's right. I forget you guys were part of the class where there was a setting on the application that accidentally got checked that put a character limit of about that of a tweet. And then once we realized what happened, we're like, well, we got to roll with it now. So everybody has the same as dealing with the same thing. You guys handled it well. That's part of being a leader is dealing with things like that. So we've talked about why kids maybe want to be involved in the program, but for the community as a whole, who maybe not wouldn't be familiar with Hancock Youth Leadership, what should area people, what should area businesses know about the program that might want them or might help them get more involved with the program and find different ways to help out?
One of the biggest things that I didn't know personally going into HYL is our fundraiser. So to help with the future classes of HYL, we every single group, so there's 4 of us senior board reps, we all have a group of kids and we run a fundraiser with a certain limit. And it's not just about raising money for the future classes, but it's also about building those leadership skills within like us as people and being able to put this out and forward. So that's a really big key part of being able to be involved as a business, because I know for me, we did a silent auction this year and we sold hot chocolate, and we like reached out to local businesses and we really got to see what they could provide for us to raise money for HYL. And it's also not only is it just like those small donations, but also the connections that you could build with the students is so profound, because all of the students in HYL are immensely talented in their leadership skills and who they are as people.
I think one of the most important things that we can teach through the program is just the importance of being able to make the ask. I think a lot of times, you think, oh, I'm not going to go into sales or anything like that. And then as you get older, you realize, well, everything is sales. It doesn't matter if you work in a lab or you work in healthcare, like you're going to be doing or anything like that. You're going to have to ask for something somewhere along the line. So getting used to making that ask and maybe hearing no is a very important part of that leadership development process. How was that for you? I don't know. Businesses tend to say no to kids. So maybe you guys had a pretty good experience with that.
Yeah, ours was pretty good. It was just hard because sometimes it's hard to like be able to reach out to businesses if you're not going face to face. So actually, I got a lot of my contact info off of the chamber's website to like reach out to all of the places. So that was great, and especially if they're involved through the chamber already, it helps a lot because we are through the Chamber of Commerce. So that was a great experience. And then one of the struggles we did like encounter was a lot of the businesses, if they're bigger businesses, they require like tax forms and all that stuff. But as HYL students, we don't have that. So we did lose the opportunity to have stuff from them. But all the small local businesses provided like so many great things. And we really brought in such a huge revenue from all of that.
It's great to see each class grow. My favorite part for Hancock Youth Leadership, and even as I somewhat transition out of the role with it, and Sarah Foltz does a lot more, is just seeing the growth of the senior board reps from the time that they become class members and the fall of their junior year to when you guys are approaching graduation, not just the next Hancock Youth Leadership graduation coming up here in a couple of months, but also your own high school graduation. So I guess we'll leave with that. You mentioned that you're going into healthcare. What can we expect from Maya Logsdon after high school?
So next year, I'm going to the University of Pittsburgh to major in nursing and then minor in Spanish and psychology, because I have gained with all the leadership experiences I've gained through HYL, I went out and I was like, I got to start spearheading my career now, getting involved with patients. So right now I work at Birch Haven Retirement Village
Mhm.
and I take care of the geriatric population now. So that I created a love for the geriatrics with working at Birch Haven. So I plan to continue to work in geriatrics as a nurse the rest of my life.
Well, Maya, we're all real proud of you. We're all real proud of the senior board reps, all 4 of them. You want to shout them out real quick before I'd hate to not mention them as well.
Yes, we have
Ben
Ben.
will come back and yell at me or something.
I know they'll come yell at you. They're gonna be like, where'd we go? But Ben Heitkamp and Patrice Pullum from Van Buren, and then Abigail Ackerman from Corey Roston. They do an immense job, and like they're so great with everyone. And it's really interesting to see how all 4 of us really approach being a senior board rep differently. Because I know Ben is very much more friends with them, and then there's some of us that are more business. So it's so interesting to see because we all exude those leadership qualities just in different ways.
Actually, last question for you. I was going to let you go there, but you made me think.
That's all right.
You 4 had to come together and kind of learn more about each other. You already were familiar with each other from last year, but now you're in a different role where you're really learning more about each other's leadership styles and how you want to approach things. But those first few sessions where you don't know the kids from other schools and everything, obviously when you're a senior board rep, you're going to work with kids from other schools and you're used to it at that point. But what was it like getting to know kids from other schools when you first started?
I think it was so interesting. Like when I first went in on retreat day, I was so nervous because I didn't know any of the kids, and I was just waiting to see some Findlay kids walk in. But even the Findlay kids that came in, I wasn't really friends with them anyway. So I not only got to build relationships with those Findlay kids, but one of the girls that I really bonded with on the retreat day was Ella Rioch, and we were like hanging out all day together, and we just got to speak to the adults at lunchtime together, and it was so interesting because I haven't met any of these people, but they all just like bring you in and are so friendly and everyone's nice to each other. And I think it's because we're all like-minded people in a sense. Like, yes, we do our personality tests. We're all different types of people, but we all have the same goal in mind, which is leadership. So it's so interesting to build those relationships with everyone.
Oh, Maya, it's been a pleasure to have you guys as part of the class. You've done a great job. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today, too.
Yes, thank you so much.